So today I wanted to start off by really talking about how really consolidating multiple SCADAs or putting an enterprise SCADA system in place can really help you optimize your operations. And if we start looking at just a really simple diagram here, it's really when you start looking at if you do have a large facility or multiple facilities with lots of different SCADA systems implemented, there's often a lot of really hidden costs that come with maintaining those systems. So you'll see some examples here of things like whether it's even just keeping the servers up to date with security enhancements, if it's unexpected changes where you need to end up having to make the same change across multiple systems. All these types of costs can really add up and really increase the cost of operations for your SCADA. So we start talking by looking at really the unified SCADA concept. So really what we're talking about here, and obviously it's going to vary from facility to facility, plant to plant. Often a lot of cases we'll have HMI SCADA systems that are either small, that are operating on point solutions or machines, all the way up to larger SCADA systems looking after the facility. So really the concept we're trying to paint here is if you do have a lot of different systems, there are several benefits that can come from ultimately from connecting all these systems together and getting a more holistic view. So obviously one of the concepts here is, sharing development. So if you do have a lot of different systems, if you can consolidate it to a single one, you can create one single larger system that's very consistent. And you can often do that by having multiple people work on the same solution. It'll also benefit from getting more holistic views of your site. So if I have to go from system to system to find out what's going on, looking at system one for one part of the plant, system two for a different part of the plant, it really is inefficient. So by taking and consolidating some of these things, you can definitely become more efficient with that. So again, these are just some. We're going to get into a lot more as we go through the presentation. So one of the concepts I talked about was also around kind of having that single view. So as you start consolidating some of those systems, either consolidating the data from the multiple systems or pulling it all into one larger system, the idea is that you can get a lot of consistency across your visualization. And that's really important if you've got multiple people and multiple roles trying to get at that same data with their own unique requirements. The idea here is you can have consistency for operators, consistency for views, and also being able to combine data from disparate systems as well, so that you're not having to look across multiple systems, as we've talked about. One of the ways that we do that here at GE Digital is with our Operations Hub product. And the idea here with that is that, we've got multiple products, multiple applications that can be built on those products, but being able to provide a single point of entry for the UI and a common user experience across these systems can really be beneficial from a productivity perspective, whether it's for operations, your quality management, or even just getting management dashboards available. The idea here is that all that data can come from a single source rather than having to have it connect to multiple systems to get that data. Now, one of the ways that we can facilitate that is through our enterprise SCADA concept with simplicity. And the idea here is that with simplicity, we do have the ability to aggregate data from those disparate systems, whether they're all simplicity systems or even third-party systems. The idea is that, hey, let me create one single SCADA entry point that has all the tags from all the OT layer or even potentially merged with IT data, but make it so it's all within one system from for creating visualization, logging to historians, or whatever it happens to be. So one of the ways we do that is with a concept of enterprise points, where essentially it's, hey, I can just go to any point on a subsystem, click the checkbox. It says make this an enterprise point, and it's automatically exposed to the enterprise server, and you don't have to do any additional communications. The other way of doing this is leveraging some communication standards. So for example, if we are interfacing with systems that aren't ours, we still have the ability to get it through standard interfaces such as OPC UA, something that's becoming more and more popular in the industry, which is MQTT. Or we've also got Python scripting available that allows you to customize and grab data from any subsystem using the Python script with its rich libraries for connecting to databases and all sorts of different systems. So the enterprise point concept is I still have the subsystems, but I want a single point of entry. Or alternately, I can connect that enterprise system directly to all the devices and data points so that I can get a holistic view of all the data in my plant. And really the key reasons behind some of this is, and why it's important is we do have a lot of customers that are in manufacturing that have the concept of a central control tower. If they've got large facilities or they've got multiple facilities, how can I get a more holistic view of my operations? Well, the concept here is pull the necessary data from those systems and really provide the ability to do that centralized control. If we're talking about infrastructure businesses, what this is often called is a remote operations center, which is really a similar concept, but typically in those markets like the power industry, you've got multiple, potentially multiple production facilities for generating power or using renewable energy, and in many of these cases those are geographically dispersed, so you want to get that centralized view of those operations and be able to get all your alarms and data necessary to do control of that. And the other kind of key thing that's really happening a lot in manufacturing is really that merging of the IT and OT data. So I kind of alluded to it a little while ago that, you want to be able to get your real-time data from your OT layer, but often you want to marry it with IT data. For example, if you've got a motor, I might want to get all the real-time parameters of how it's running and be able to log that data to historians, but I also might want to marry it with my CMMS data for maintenance so that in the event of a situation, I can look at the last maintenance logs or potentially even generate work orders and things like that. One of the other kind of key things is, we start looking at a lot of people starting to move to cloud-based applications. In some cases, it may make sense to have your SCADA in the cloud. Sometimes it's not, or maybe you might have it in more of a hybrid mode. What we're seeing from some of our customers is really where anything that's real-time critical and could stop production will remain at site, and they'll put all their other servers and applications in the cloud. And really some of the reasons for that are, and we'll get into a little bit more later, really around helping in terms of IT infrastructure costs and flexibility in terms of computing power and things like that. But ultimately, one of the key things is by getting to an enterprise level and getting that data aggregated at the site allows you to more easily feed those cloud applications. And again, you can use some standards like MQTT and OPC UA to get it there.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, click here to watch the next video and learn how GE Vernova is at the forefront of tackling challenges in the water and wastewater industry.